Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak Badash, and I want to say Shalom to Akmanakwath out there doing this truth diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson. And this is the 7th and I believe final edition of the series America is in a State of Societal Decline. If you haven't been following the series, it's probably best to just start from the beginning. All right, and we've talked a lot about it, about what's going on in the world. And right today, we're doing parts 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, 8 is going to have the bulk of the scriptures, as why this is the final lesson is, most of these are just talking points, 7, 8, and 9, or they tie back into things that we've already talked about. So, normally we'd be starting with 7, which would be cultural fragmentation. So we'll read about that here. And this is the original ChatGPT prompt, all right, that brought this about. Just asking, if America began to fall like Rome, what would the signs be in a modern society? And for part 7, it says cultural fragmentation. It says no shared story about who we are or what the future should look like. Different groups live in different realities. Okay, and that goes back to part 2. All right, and part 2, going up here, is political paralysis and constant infighting. All right, so, we got Isaiah 19:2, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. In this case, referring to Esau against Esau. Not that they are the Egyptians, but this place is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. And you got the red and the blue, all right, that are living in different realities, and even people outside of the red and blue, all right, and everyone's living in different realities. There's no shared, American identity, all right, not really. There's certain things, similarities, but everyone's scattered, all right, everyone's fragmented, as it says. It says speak different moral languages and see each other as enemies rather than rivals. And it says Rome fractured culturally long before it fell politically, and we see that, right now, all right, with everybody in the world, right? Especially with the Democrats and Republicans, they're not seen as rivals; they're enemies, all right, blood enemies, okay, not rivals. And that's Esau against Esau. I got Esau hating Esau. They shot that lady. All right, what was her name? Rachel something good, I believe. Let me see. Another brother made a lesson on it that has the name. I made a lesson on it, but I didn't put it. I don't think I did. I put the name in the title. I don't remember if I put her name in the title. But Renee Nicole Good. All right, Renee Nicole Good. All right, they shot that lady in the face. All right, so they're going after their own people. They're losing it. They're losing it, and that goes back into number 2 here. All right, and all these scriptures still apply. So I'll grab Mark 3:24 real quick, and it reads, "And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand." So, it's unsound. It's unstructured. All right, and a kingdom can't be ruled like that. It's gonna crumble away, and that's exactly what's happening. Okay, it's exactly what's happening. And then, of course, I'll get Isaiah 19:2 right off the bat, because we got to go and get that as well. It says Isaiah 19:2. It reads, we'll start from 2. So it says, "And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight, every one against his brother, and every one against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom." So that's what's going to happen. There's not going to be really any togetherness. Sure, they're of the same nation, but there's not going to be any togetherness. All right, that's that cultural fragmentation. All right, now, cultural fragmentation. Let's see if it says... cultural fragmentation is the breakdown of a single unifying culture, aka, we're all Americans, into smaller distinct subgroups with differing values, beliefs, and practices. often fueled by globalization, technology, and social changes, leading to a loss of shared identity and water cooler moments, but also the rise of niche subcultures and personalized media experiences. So, examples, music. All right, this is cultural fragmentation. I wish we could get a bit. I mean, really, cultural. It's the fragmentation of breaking down one unified culture into smaller, distinct subgroups. All right, it's easy. You got people that are Christian, you got people that aren't Christian, you got people that hate minorities, you got people that like minorities, you got people that want abortion, you got people that don't want abortion. You want people that are okay with gays, people that are okay with gay. Everyone's just fragmented. They don't really have there's really not even that many similarities between the American peoples, right? Everyone's different, right? There's not, it's not like, in India, most people share similar values, similar ideas, all right? They celebrate, the same holidays. Not in America. People are celebrating different holidays. They're worshiping different gods. They're, talking in different languages. They're believing in different things, and that's cultural fragmentation. All right, one person says this is morally wrong, the other person says it's morally right. India, I mean, they have that, but it's not to a large scale like America has. Most nations have some type of cultural bond. All right, but America is very fragmented culturally, right, as it says. And the big hitter that we're dealing with today is going to be laws stop being applied evenly. Okay. Then 9. All right, we can get 9 out of the way right now. You can see number 5. That's the military is being stretched thin or politicized. So that really is going to go back into Revelation 17:16, right? And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast shall hate the whore and shall make her desolate and burn her with fire, roughly paraphrasing. And we can go and get 9 here. It says reliance on outsiders to hold things together. It says Rome leaned heavily on foreign labor, and America does as well. It says mercenaries, administrators. A modern parallel would be essential systems running on groups that aren't invested in the nation's long-term survival because the nation itself no longer inspires loyalty. And that's what's happening. A lot of these things aren't, still, Trump with his whole, make America great again. He's trying to make things more produced in America, and it's just not going to work. It's just not profitable enough. Okay, so a lot of our infrastructure is handled out of country, and when those outsiders, all right, as in Revelation 17:16, when those outsiders say, hey, screw these guys keep on screwing us over and trying to take our land, as they're doing with Greenland, they're trying to do with Greenland, right? And Venezuela and all these other places that Trump has his greedy little hands on. That's just in their blood, all right, and they covet fields and take them by violence, all right, as the scriptures say. So that's just in their blood. That's just who they are. So let's go and get that. Micah 2:2, it says, and they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. They oppress a man in his house, even a man and his heritage. So that's what's going to happen to these devils, man. And because of that, they're going to have things that come to them. Like it says in 3, it says, therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, against this family. Who's this family? It's dealing with Esau, Edom. It says, do I devise an evil from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil. And haughty is disdainfully superior or proud, right? Haughty, all right, or haughty, okay?
Haughty.
All right, arrogantly superior and disdainful. Excuse me. So that's how they are. They're arrogantly superior. Oh, look at how we are. Nose up in the air. That's how they are. And of course, 8, big focus point today is laws stop being applied evenly. So let's go ahead and read that. So laws stop being applied evenly, and this really ties into Habakkuk 1:4, the law being slack, justice not going forth. What else? And also, I mean, it also plays in with Ecclesiastes 12 and 10, never trust thine enemy, because you can't trust these devils. All right. If laws aren't being applied evenly, you can't trust these devils. They're going to give you a different ruling than they're going to give themselves. And we already see that happening, especially with the Israelites. All right. The so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right. Which is our true biblical identity. We're not black or Mexican or Jamaican or Puerto Rican or Native American. We're Israelites through our respective tribes, whether it be Southern Kingdom or Northern Kingdom, whether it be Judah, whether it be Manasseh, whether it be Naphtali or Asher, all right, or Gad, whoever it happens to be. That's who we are. We're not black. We're not brown. I mean, our skin, most of our people's skin is brown, but brown people are not, that's just a color. That's not a land. There's no land of brown. All right, where if you go and look up brown on a map, I'm pretty sure there's probably some small country named Brown or something, but there's no land of brown where all the browns come from, right? No. We have a land that we're from, all right? But again, they don't want you to know that. And they hate us, all right? The Edomites, who they are, truly, not white people. The Edomites, not Europeans or Caucasians. The Caucasians is closer because at least it shows you what mountain region they crawled out of, all right? But Edomites, okay? And Edomites hate Israelites. Edomites hate Israelites. And because of that, laws are going to be stopped being applied evenly, especially to us. But it's also going to happen, to other people. If you're poor, you're not going to have the same laws as a rich man, all right? So even in a sense, a rich black man can get further than a poor black man can, right? So-called black, right? So there's so much division going back into cultural fragmentation. There's so much division. You're already going to be divided because you're an Israelite and they're an Edomite. But on top of that, a rich Jake, a rich Israelite, can in ways be tolerated around rich Edomites. They'll still talk shit about you, but they'll think, maybe they're not all bad. Right? They'll think things like that, but they're still going to have that burning hatred for you. But again, everything's so fragmented that Esau himself even gets confused. All right? There's so much fragmentation that they don't even really know what to believe at this point. I mean, you got Esau not even knowing, what to do anymore. They're over here. They talk shit and look at Jake a certain type of way. But then when Trump does something, he's like, that's racist against the brown and black people. Well, every time a black person walks in, you scrunch your face up at him. Right? I'm not a racist. Right? But then why do you make dirty faces at all the brown people that walk by? All right, they don't even know what to do. Here it is. They're jealous if a black man or if a white man gets with if a black man gets with a white woman, they don't like that. Or if a black man thinks he knows what he's talking about, they don't like that. But they'll still go to the rallies and say no justice, no peace, no racist police. They're fucked up in the head. They don't even know they're racist, but they're protesting racism even though they're racist, and they don't realize that they're racist because they think they're doing right, but by doing right they're actually white knighting, which is making it seem like black people can't help themselves. All right, and not only black, but black and brown. All right, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, but a lot of the time you see that with the BLM rallies. All right, so that's they're all messed up in the head. They don't even know. All right, they don't even know what's going on. So Habakkuk 1 and 4, I mentioned it, but we're gonna go ahead and get it again. Habakkuk, all right, 1 and 4. It says, therefore, do I want to read up? I mean, it's pretty much to the point. We'll start with 3. All right, and it's a plea to the Lord. All right, by Habakkuk. It says, Habakkuk 1 and 3, it says, why dost thou show me iniquity? Of course, he's asking this to the Lord. Because he's upset, he's vexed with the wickedness that's happening, right? It says, why dost thou show me iniquity and cause me to behold grievance? For spoiling and violence are before me, and there and there are that raise up strife and contention. Therefore the law is slacked, and judgment doth never go forth. For the wicked doth compass about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceedeth. So breaking this down easy, the law is not being upheld. All right, true justice. All right, and judgment in the world. Of course, the Lord has His judgment, but in the world is not going forth. Why? It says, "For the wicked doth compass about the righteous." The wicked are in greater numbers than the righteous, and because of that, like it says, therefore wrong judgment proceedeth. Wrong judgment proceeds. Why? Because there's far more wicked than there are righteous people in the world, and the law is not going out. All right, the righteous judgments are not happening. All right, because they're not a righteous people. They're a profane person. No one is profane as Esau, right? That tells you that they're a profane person right there. All right, and profane means ungodly, so they're not gonna uphold the law. Okay, they're gonna do a whole bunch of wicked things. So people are going to be wrongly convicted of crimes. I'm not going to say they're innocent, but they're going to be wrongly convicted of crimes. They're going to say you stole something when you didn't steal something. They're going to say you killed someone when you didn't kill anybody. They're going to say you said something that you didn't say. All right, there's all sorts of things. They're going to say you were going 50 when you were going 20. All right, which is the speed limit. All right, at the time. So they're going to do all these things, and you are going to go to court probably, and you are going to get fined probably, and you might even go to prison and be sentenced for life. Not us, but I'm talking about people in the world. And I mean, with us, we might be fined. We might be fined for something we never even did. Okay, might be fined for something we didn't even do. All right, caught might pull you over. You going 80 back there? I was officer. I was going 50. No, you were going 80. Okay, officer. I don't want any issues. I don't want no problems. I'll take the ticket. I'm sorry. Right? And you say, well, I'm not going to do that. Well, you might be a dead motherfucker that day. All right? Scripture tells us to agree with thine adversary quickly. Right? Matthew 5:25. This is red letter, Yahushua speaking. It says, agree with thine adversary quickly. So if they're saying, no, you went 80. Okay, I don't remember going 80, but you must know it's right, officer. I'm sorry. Right? This is agree with thine adversary quick. And I mean, don't admit to a crime. All right, don't say you're right, I was. Just say, officer, I really don't recall going that speed. The way I perceived that I was going 25, but all right, you'd know best. Sorry about that, officer. My bad. All right, again, that's how you got to yiquab them. All right, make them feel big and bad. Stroke the ego. Right? It says, agree with thine adversary quickly, whilst thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Nowadays, this doesn't have that same what's the word? This same not scale, but same happenings. All right? Nowadays, that cop might be your judge, jury, and executioner, all right? Because this is talking about delivering you to the judge, then you go to the officer, all right, and then you be cast into prison. That can happen still in the society, but with how bad it is right now, you might not get that opportunity. The scripture still stands, but you might not get that opportunity. Because nowadays, with how Esau is, they're your judge, juror, and executioner, okay? That's what they are, your judge, juror, and executioner. They say, you're wrong. All right. Well, they're the judges say, you've been sentenced against the crime. Everybody agrees. And now you're going to be put to death for it. Okay. That's what they do. They shoot you on sight sometimes. All right. For seemingly nothing at all. So agree with your enemy. All right. Just be quick. Again, judgment, righteous judgment's not going to go forth. They're not going to say, you know what, you're right, I was wrong. You were going 40 back there. I'm such a moron. I'm sorry about that. You can get in your car and you can leave, sir. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen, man. They don't care. They don't care at all. Give me a minute. Hey, Google, turn on my light. All right. But they're not going to do that, man. Because they're not righteous. If they're not righteous, they cannot judge righteous judgment. That was a commandment for us, okay? All right? John 7:24, judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. What is righteous judgment? Okay, righteous means right judgment. Judge rightly, okay, correctly, okay, sober-mindedly, okay. Esau doesn't do that. They judge because, oh, they got offended, or you said there's something they didn't like, or they're having a bad day, or any of those things. That's not righteous judgment. That's just them being a fucking bunch of assholes, right? That's all it is. And they're proud. They're never gonna, again, going with another scripture, he's never gonna admit he's wrong. All right. Habakkuk 2:5, it says, yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man. He's proud. Okay. He's not going to admit his fault. All right. And they're going to stay like that right up until the point that they're dissolved. All right. Never to return again as a nation. So, and of course that happens. That's going to come after the 1,000 years of hardcore captivity that they're going to be subjected to in the kingdom. So it says, neither keepeth at home who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. There you go. So that's how it is, man. That's how it is. And they're never going to admit fault. They're never going to say they were wrong. Okay? So the laws are not going to be applied evenly, as it says. All right? They're not. They're not going to be applied evenly. Okay? You're going to get a different version of the law. Okay? And that's that. That is that. I forgot I wanted to get this in the amp. I just saw my note there that I wanted to get it in the amp. Alright, so, bear with me. Alright, Slack you. I want to change some settings. So, you see it's in dark mode now, but there's also some other things. I have a thing that blurs personal information because I'm sick of editing it all the time, so it just blurs certain keywords, like my name and other people's names that use the computer and whatnot. So, Habakkuk 1:4 in the Amp Bible, it says, therefore, the law is ineffective and ignored, and justice is never upheld. For the wicked surround the righteous, therefore justice becomes perverted. All right, the law is ineffective because it's ignored. All right, that's why. Okay, the law is ineffective because it's ignored. It says it's ineffective and ignored. It should say, therefore, the law is ineffective because it's ignored. Okay, and justice is never upheld. Because, if the law was held perfectly, kept perfectly, it would work. All right, there would be no wickedness. But, even amongst Israel, all right, we're not able to keep the law perfectly. Okay. Now, we still try. We rehearse the righteous acts, but Esau, they don't try. They don't give a shit. All right? They're too worried about, going and doing horrible things. All right? Like laying down with a dog, all right, as we talked about yesterday. That's something they do. All right? But if they say, oh, you guys, you black people and brown people, all you guys, you Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, all you guys do is rob. Hey, man, I'd much rather, I don't rob. All right, and not that I can prove that to anybody except, the Lord. All right, the Lord knows I don't rob. But if I was going to be falsely accused of something, I'd personally rather be called a robber than a dog fucker. I'm just saying. That's just me. All right, I don't know about you, but that's what I would rather. I would rather, oh, you're a robber. All right, well, I'm not. But I'd rather be falsely accused of that than falsely accused of the other one. Just saying. Just saying. So Leviticus 19:15, it says, ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. Thou shalt not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty, but in righteousness shall thou judge thy neighbor. So that's the right way. And Leviticus 19, this is a law. Okay. It says, ye shall, that's a law. That is a command. You shall. All right. You need to do this. That is a law. Okay. There's 613 laws within the Bible. Okay. And we can't keep them all. All right. We can't keep them all perfectly. We can try our best of our ability, but we can only do as good as we can do. All right. Because we're not going to be able to keep the law 100%. We're not. It's physically impossible. Physically impossible. All right. You're all sitting on couches or beds where, your wife or girlfriend, if you want to call her that, has had her menstrual cycle. You're unclean. All right. Or you're wearing a garment of mixed fabrics. That's going off. Or for example, you're not supposed to be eating human being. Did you know right now that Putin's basically lightly, in a way, blowing the whistle that on information that Gates, all right, Kill Gates is putting human remains into the food supply. You can't. How you're gonna not eat any of the unclean animals, but the things that you do eat, I got beef. I got ground beef. Cool. Well, guess what? Human remains are mixed within it. Okay, more than likely. All right, maybe not every pack, but damn near probably. Okay, and if it's not human remains, it's animal feces or something from an unclean animal, or it was on the conveyor belt that was used to chop up pigs or something. All right. So you can't keep the law 100%. No, you can only do the best of your ability. Okay. But Esau here, they don't judge accordingly. Okay. They don't judge accordingly. Okay. So not that this is about Esau, but I'm just saying Esau here, they don't go based on Leviticus 19 and 15 of ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. All they do is unrighteous in judgment. All right. They have money. Like it says, thou shalt not respect the person of the poor nor honor the person of the mighty. But that's how it happens in the society. They're poor and they're saying, nope. Oh, he's rich. He can afford a better lawyer, and he can, he looks better and he looks cleaner, so he's gonna get off with it, even though he killed someone and all the other person did, was, they ran a stoplight. All right, the rich person's gonna get off, and the poor person's gonna be fine. They're gonna have to attend a defensive driving class and a whole bunch of other shit. But the rich person that literally slaughtered a person, they're gonna get off just fine. All right. So it says, but in righteousness shalt thou judge thy neighbor. But that's not how Esau judges. Why? Because they're the wicked. All right. They are the wicked. Okay. And then finally, should be about 30 minutes, is Deuteronomy 1 and 17. And we'll, is there anything else we want to get? Let me see. We'll get Deuteronomy 1 and 17 here, which is the last planned scripture I have for it, but we're going to go up there because I want to at least hit 30 minutes. So Deuteronomy 1 and 17, it reads, ye shall not respect persons in judgment, but ye shall hear the small as well as the great. Ye shall not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment is Yahweh's, and the cause that is too hard for you, bring it unto me, and I will hear it. Now, I also want to go back to, not Habakkuk, but, excuse me, Leviticus 19 and 15, and I want to get some of these in the Ant Bible. Okay, so here it is, Leviticus 19 and 15. It says, ye shall not do injustice in judgment. Ye shall not be partial to the poor, nor show a preference for the great, but judge your neighbor fairly. It's the same thing. Oh, he's poor, he's poor, he deserves a lighter sentence. Or, oh, he's rich, he can just pay his way out of it. No. Says, but judge your neighbor fairly. It's supposed to be fairly according to law, not according to its stature or money. Okay, but in this society, that's how it's deemed. All right, if you have the money, you get off with anything. So Deuteronomy 1 and 17 in the Ant Bible, it says, ye shall not show partiality, in judgment. Ye shall hear and pay attention to the cases of the least important as well as the great. Ye shall not fear man, for judgment is Yahweh's. The case that is too hard for you to judge, you shall bring to me, and I will hear it. And the Lord's judgment's still going out. All right, we see that all the time. All right, matter of fact, it's been a while since I've done a judgment report, so that's something, Lord willing, through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shemi Shah, I'm alive and well to do it. That I'll probably touch on soon. That judgment's still going out, but judgment as far as from men in this world, there's no justice that's going out. All right, there's no justice that's going out. They're going to let all the wicked people off, and they're going to condemn and imprison all the people that were, just living normally. All right. But they accidentally ran a stoplight or something, or, just dumb shit. Like manslaughter charges are pretty dumb, for the most part, depending on what they are. If you fell asleep at the wheel or something, you kill somebody, that's you didn't mean to do it. It's not like you said, oh, I'm going to fall asleep. All right. That's not something that would be ruled by, 15, 20 years in prison. That's ridiculous. It was an honest mistake. All right. It was an honest mistake. And, but in Esau society, they treat you just as like if you purposely went out and murdered someone. right? And meanwhile, someone that went out and fucked a kid gets 2 years, right? But someone that fell asleep at the wheel and accidentally killed someone, all right, they get or they were driving and a kid ran out in front of the car and they didn't see it, all right, or they didn't stop in time, they're gonna get 10, 15 years, all right, 9, 8 years. But the person that went and had sex with a kid is gonna literally be out in 2 years, all right, or which they would be put to death. Or someone that was possessing how do I want to say it, vile disgustings of children, all right, you can know what's being hinted at there, they should be put to death too, all right, but they'll get out in a year, sometimes not even, sometimes sooner than that, all right. So these laws, they're really not even good laws, all right, in this society. They're just whatever, do whatever the fuck you want, I guess, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you diddled a kid or killed someone or set a house on fire or embezzled money. If you got $1 million, you'll probably get your way right on out of it, okay? And that's not the way that the law should be upheld. If you did something wrong, you deserve to be judged for it accordingly, okay? Not pay your way out of it, all right? There are things where you would essentially pay as a fine. Like if you stole, you would have to pay that money back and then some. Biblically, I believe it was 7 times punishment for stealing Bible. I believe it's 7 times, sevenfold, right? There's multiple rulings depending. Yeah, it depends on the I guess it depends on the situation. For example, here in Exodus 22:1, it says, if a man shall steal an ox or a sheep and kill it or sell it, he shall restore 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. Okay. So I guess it depends on the or like for example here with stealing goods, okay, it just depends on the ruling. There would be different rulings dependent. Right here it says Proverbs 6:30, it says, men do not despise a thief if he steals to satisfy his soul when he is hungry. So if someone steals because he's hungry, you're not really supposed to hate that person, all right? You're not supposed to be like, oh, that dirty motherfucker, no, he's hungry. All right. Really, you should have just given it to him, but all right, it still doesn't allow what he did, for lack of a better word. It says, but if he be found, if they do find him, all right, he shall restore 7-fold. He shall give all the substance of his house. So there you go. So 7-fold. All right, for certain goods or oxes, there's different punishments. All right, so that would be the correct punishment, all right, for someone that's stole. But someone that went and murdered or committed adultery or did something homosexual act, these prisons wouldn't be filling up. They would have been put to death. The biblical punishment for those things was death. Okay, they're not going to sit and just take up space. They're going to be put to death biblically, all right? So that's how it goes. And with 10 being, all right here, the normalization of decline. All right, and this is the last topic. All right, it says, this is the quiet and most dangerous one. People adapt to dysfunction and say things like, that's just how it is now. Romans didn't think they were living through a collapse. They thought they were surviving a rough era. So I'm going to edit this now, and I'm going to say, well, isn't this pretty much what's happening right now as we speak? I'm not going to say, well, isn't this? I'm going to say, well, this is pretty much what's happening right now as we speak. It says, yeah, that's why so many people feel uneasy when day-to-day life still works. When the pattern matches history that closely, it stops feeling abstract. What usually comes after the phase we're in isn't instant collapse, it's compression. Things get tighter, louder, and meaner. Systems still function, but worse and at higher cost. That's what's happening right now. Rules keep changing, so nobody plans long-term anymore. Happening. People pull inward, family, tribe ideology, local networks, they become tribal and group up, and it's happening. It says the state reacts more than it leads. Everyone senses decline, but no one agrees on the cause. That's the point where empires either reform hard or fragment slowly. And it's not going to be slowly, it's going to be fragment fast. All right, we're coming up on it quick. All right, in Babylon the Great. It says a big difference between Rome and now is speed. Rome took centuries. Modern tech, finances, and information cycles can compress decades into years. Look at that. So it feels like whiplash. At least it called it. The collapse of Rome took a while. And in modern society, bam, it's done. All right, so there's another difference. You can feel it while it's happening. Romans didn't have real-time discourse, metrics, or endless visibility into dysfunction. We do. Awareness itself adds stress and accelerates distrust. Smart move historically wasn't panic or denial, it was adaptation. And no, it says not doom prep, just realism. Empires don't usually disappear overnight. Well, Babylon will. And that's it, man. America's in a state of societal decline. Okay, almost about 40 minutes. Is there anything else I want to get? Closing points. Yeah, man, Babylon is going to be, it's on its way out. Okay, it's on its way out. It's crumbling, and this place is ultimately, like it says, it doesn't happen overnight. A fall doesn't happen overnight. Well, in the state of Babylon, the final collapse is going to happen. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen in a period of an hour. All right. Get it. We'll start with 10 and we'll go to 17. This is Revelation 18 and 10. America's going to be completely destroyed in uno. I don't know how you say hour, but uno hour. All right, 1 hour. All right. So Revelation 18 and 10. Standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, read up. I'm gonna just read up from 1, right? I'm gonna read up from 1 because it's fantastic. It's a great chapter. All right, so Revelation chapter 18, it says, and after these things, this is verse 1, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. These are, all the wickedness, wicked things that they're profiting off of, right? It says, and verse 4, it says, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and Yahweh hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. And the cup which she hath filled to her double. So their punishment's going to be, that get back's going to be insane, okay, on Babylon. It says, how much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. So much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. That's that pride. It says, therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. That's those ICBMs, right? Intercontinental ballistic missiles. For strong is the Lord who judgeth her. And the kings of the earth, who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. Completely done. It says, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and of pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all dyeing wood, and all manner vessels of ivory, and all manner vessels of most precious wood, and of brass, and iron, and marble, and cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men, and the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things that were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more. That says, the merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, saying, alas, alas, the great city, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. All right. Oh, she was rich. For in 1 hour, so great riches is come to nothing. Nothing. It says, and every shipmaster and all the company and ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? There you go. We'll just read to the bottom. It says, and they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, alas, alas, that great city wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness, for in 1 hour is she made desolate. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for Yahweh hath avenged you on her. And that's what we're waiting for. It says, and a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of harpers and musicians and of pipers and of trumpeters shall be heard no more at all in thee, and no craftsman of whatsoever craft he be, doesn't matter what craft you are, shall be found any more in thee, and the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee. And a millstone grinds mill, and if you're producing grain, you would need a millstone. That sound, there's not going to be any grain to produce, so you're not going to hear the right. Pardon my horrible sound effect, but that's the sound of a grindstone, as good as I can do, right? Or a millstone or a grindstone, right? Same thing. It's for milling, and that you're not going to hear that sound because there ain't going to be no mill to be grounded, right? So 23 it says, and the voice of a candle shall shine and the light of a candle. Reading voice down here, and the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. All right. It says, for thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. There's Esau, all right, deceiving the nations. And verse 24, it says, and in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain on the earth. And they're going to try to talk their way out of it and say, oh, no, this is normal. It's not normal. It is not normal at all. Okay? It's very clear, very apparent that America is in a state of societal decline. And there's not a damn thing anyone can do about it. Not a damn thing. All right? The Lord has it happen, and no one can. No, you can't fight the Lord. You can't stop the Lord from what he's doing. There's nothing you can do. Okay? Nothing. So you're going to have to sit back and watch this place collapse further and further and further and decay further and further and further. And, hey, we like it because that means we're getting out of here soon. But we understand that's going to be a horrible situation for the inhabitants of this earth as far as, the loving Babylonian, all right? They love Babylonian culture. It's all going to go away, all right? And very soon, mind you. So that's the lesson, how long we end up going for. Hopefully at least, 45 minutes. I'm happy with that. So, 20 minutes, I was like, that's too short. 30 minutes, I still feel it's too short. So, 40, 45, that's right around where I like to be. That's been the lesson. All right, Lord willing, it was edifying. Again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. I want to say shalom to you brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring, keep the faith, stay prayed up. Lord, if you're of the elect, the Lord's going to help you, through whatever you're going through. All right. There's no reason to panic or, get afraid this deep into it. All right. And it's going to hurt a little bit to rip the Band-Aid off. But if you don't rip that Band-Aid off, the wound underneath is just going to fester and never heal. So we got to have this Jacob's trouble get, worse or worse or worse until, it pops off. All right. World War III. And it's not going to be comfortable. That's not going to be a comfortable scenario. We're not going to lie to you. All right. The Bible says it's not going to be comfortable. All right. It even talks about the remnant being saved by the skin of their teeth. Okay. So it's going to be a very, very close call. All right. So, it might be you might be right in the midst of almost dying to your perception. And then whoosh, chariot rips by and picks you up. All right. And you got to have faith in that moment. You got to stand strongly in your faith. Okay. So whatever you pray for, believe it. All right. Let's get that real quick. A little bonus. Mark 11:24. It says, "Therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them." There you go. And so keep prayed up. All right. Pray without ceasing, as the scriptures say, which is in how to spell that word, but ceasing. 1 Thessalonians 5:17. Pray without ceasing. So cease means to stop. Okay. So do not stop praying. All right. We're almost out of here. You're going to get through it, Lord willing. Keep on praying to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. You got this. All right. If you're of the elect, you're going to be A-okay. So Lord willing, you're part of elect. Lord willing, I'm part of elect. And, all us brothers and sisters that are sincerely, in this truth and doing the work and the will of the Father, Lord willing, may we make it out. All right. Because that's our ultimate goal. So until that, keep enduring, keep the faith. We're almost out of here. Until next one, Lord willing. Shalom.